That's why we're working on CLEAP. It should include the religious sector. It should include civic groups. It should include non-government organizations like ECOP, harnessing our people to engage in coordinated volunteer activities. I remember visiting, for instance, Yasaki Torres, where, because I saw Toti Torres here, where your people, your employees, were doing volunteer activities. And that is what a lot of the firms can be doing. Focusing on such initiatives, not part of your core activities, like cleaning up our environment, building parks, planting trees, giving comfort to the poor through food banks, and bringing the dignity of literacy to adults who cannot read. Yes, I know, it is a great challenge because you're trying to keep your business together. You're trying to keep your workers within the fold. And on top of that, we are asking you and your workers to do volunteer work. Indeed, these are trying times. But during these trying times, the Filipino spirit and commitment to caring should prompt each one of us to count our blessings. For instance, those companies that have not yet had to retrench, we must count our blessings and give back to those who are less fortunate. Our nation needs us all pulling in the same direction. Volunteering time, skill, and resources is a noble undertaking we should all take seriously. I remember, for instance, when I visited Dole, a lot of your wives of the wives of the executives do a lot of volunteer work and have organized the wives of those who are working there. So there's so much that can be done, and I know it's a bigger challenge during this time, but that's why we're specifically making a call to continue to do that, as well as appreciating your resolve to continue to fight hard to keep the jobs that you have been giving and to create new ones as much as possible. We conducted a number of worker-employer consultations with a view to integrating the initiatives of you, the private sector, with the coping strategies of labor. ECOP has been a strong presence in this fora, whether or not you were invited as ECOP, because you hold so many hats. Sometimes you're there, but you were invited as PCCI or something else. But ECOP has always been a strong presence, and I thank you for that, whether or not you had a formal invitation as ECOP. And you know where you have been as a result of our consultations. We have followed a lot of your recommendations. For instance, we have doubled the TESDA's training budget this year to reach out to more members of the workforce, including displaced domestic and overseas workers. In this connection, I thank the many corporations, especially the early participants, who partnered with TESDA in training workers and allowing their own workers to participate in internally generated work sharing and training arrangements. And I would like to reiterate, for those of you who don't want to let your workers go, who are willing to make them, to keep them and then make them work full-time again when times get better, and I hope that times are beginning to get better because some orders are coming back. I'd like to remind you that the DOLE is giving you the privilege of paying only half of the minimum wage if your workers will enter our training program on our scholarship. So the half of the minimum wage that you are giving them is to help their transportation and their accommodations while they are training. And we would like you to do the curriculum for the training so that when things get better, and I said, I hope we have bottomed out already in the world, their workers will even be more productive than they were before the global crisis. In Yasaki Torres, where we visited last week, Toti is doing that. He's keeping some of the workers even if they're not working, paying them 25% because he's paying about double the minimum wage, so that's about half the minimum wage. And then TESDA can train them at the expense of TESDA, not at your expense. Let's do that to be able to keep our workers on your payrolls and getting better for the recovery. I was talking about SM keeping its market, and I think St. Luke's is probably keeping its market, and many companies are keeping their market. A lot of these are keeping their markets and their employment because of our strong domestic demand. And this is not unique to the Philippines. China, India, and Indonesia demonstrate that large populations can reasonably sustain business through the sheer number of domestic consumers. So while we do not have a population as large as theirs, our numbers so far seem to be able to support local industries during these challenging times. And I point this out because yesterday I was listening to the sermon of Cardinal Vidal against the reproductive health bill, because indeed during these times it is the countries with large populations with a reasonably good per capita income like the Philippines that are able to resist the worst effects of the global crisis. I thank you all for trying as much as possible to keep our workers so that the number of displaced workers is very finite. Nitoy Roque can make a list and give it around to the cabinet members. Imagine all those other countries where the unemployment is down by 2 million. Oh, you cannot make a list that way. And you cannot give it to cabinet members to take care of each subset of the list. But I thank ECOP because I think the list would have been much longer, or it might have become infinite if you were not there to help us to keep the jobs, even if you are making your own sacrifice. I thank ECOP for the constant support and trust that you have given me, not only during this time when you are keeping many workers even if you don't specifically need them now, but on other matters of policy. But during this time, I thank not only ECOP, I thank labor, and we have our labor leaders here, for the industrial peace we have enjoyed over the years. Salamat sa inyo. Palagay ko, dahil napakabait ang ating labor, may malasakit, mas nagaganahan yung mga employers na tumulong at huwag mag-lay off kahit na mahirap ang panahon. And of course, we have the government agencies to help cement the strong bond of the tripartite. And our most important message is that we must and we will sustain this partnership as we work together to hasten our country's economic rebound. And that is our response to the global crisis. Staying together, pulling together, nagkakaisa sa ating kapatiran. Maraming salamat sa inyong lahat.